it's Thursday. Now, the reason I'm over here is because I have to fit this week's project into the frame. Today, I'm going to show you how to make all of the base pieces that make up our mama dragon. Now, this dragon, of course, completes the series that we've gone through, starting from the hatching baby dragon through to Chonk. Then we had our adult dragon, and now we have our mama dragon to finish it off. Now, I do want to be clear. I'm not going to be covering specifically how to do these scales or like the wings or any of like the decorative pieces. Today we're going to be looking at the base dragon because it's something you guys have asked for, and that way you'll be able to sort of take this base and build your own dragon off of it, which I think is just a cool idea. So let's get into tools and materials. All right, so she's so big she can't be on the desk and not be in frame, so we're just gonna have to get used to that today. So to start with, you're going to need 8-ply 100% acrylic yarn, also known as DK. Now, I don't have enough yellow to make an entirely new marigold in just the yellow, so I'm going with purple today. And you're going to want to pick 3 main colors. So the first color you're going to need at least 1.5 skeins of, and I've picked this sort of mid purple. That's going to form her main body color. Next, you're going to want a paler color to form her underbelly. And then you want an accent color, and I've just chosen dark purple for this, and I'm going to use that to make her claws. So you won't need a full skein of either of these two, but you will need at least 1.5 of your main color, so be warned. You'll also need a pair of 21mm safety eyes, your 3.5mm hook, scissors, pins and needles, and a lot of stuffing, but that's it. So a written version of today's pattern will be sent out to my patrons. I'm not sure at this point if I'm going to make it available in my store, but I will leave links to both in the description down below in case any of you wanted to check it out. So it's a bit hard to show you on the finished dragon, so I'm just going to grab my sketchbook. Okay, so this was my original sketch for Marigold, and then we did some like colored ones later that showed some details. But I think this is the one that shows what I'm trying to talk about the best. So we're going to start today by making this main piece. So this piece actually starts as like an oval disc at the base. We then leave some gaps on either side to join on the tail and the neck, and we finish building up the base of the back. So at this point, all of this is done. We then join on and work up the tail curving around. And then we reattach again and we build up the neck. And the neck doesn't continue into the head. So that is the piece we're going to be creating first. So we're going to start by creating this flat oval that forms the base of everything. And you're going to do that in your palest color. And we're going to work up the first 15 rows of this piece, which should form a large flat oval. So the reason it becomes an oval and not a circle, even though we're just using 6 increases in every round, is because of where we're positioning those increases. So you'll note that we've kind of picked 2 points and we're clustering our increases around those points. And that means that that's where all of our growth is happening, and the rest is just staying nice and flat. And that's how we end up with this oval shape instead of a circle. So there is the base of our dragon. Now, it's probably not as big as you expect it to be, but that's because you are vastly underestimating at this point exactly how much bulk we're about to add to it. So what we're going to do is change to our main body color, which for me is a slightly darker purple. And in the next round, just like we did with the Loch Ness Monster, we're going to work 2 chain loops to leave spaces for the neck and the tail to be attached. So row 16 starts with 9 single crochet, and we're going to work the first 8 of them and then change colors in our 9th. So now to change colors, all I'm going to do is insert my hook into the next stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. So I have 2 loops of my current color on my hook. I'm then going to hold that color out of the way down the hook, grab the color I'm changing to and pinch it at the base of that stitch so that the tail runs off in the same direction. I'm then going to yarn over with my new color and pull through both of those loops and tug at my tails until the stitch settles in nicely. And you'll see there what we are left with is a finished single crochet in our old color, but our new color on our hook ready to go. And just because I'm done with my lighter color for now, I am going to trim that off and tie these 2 ends in a knot. So just a double knot. That will stop it working its way free. So the next thing we're going to do is chain 27. Just like that. We're then going to skip the next 14 stitches, and make sure you rotate your piece so that you're still inserting your hook from the same direction as you were before. We are then going to crochet 44 single crochet around. So that's the first one. You'll see there that we formed this chain loop. So that is going to be where we attach our neck later on. So now we're just going to continue on and work the other 43 single crochet around. So that's what that looks like. And at this point, we're going to chain 27 again and skip the next 14 stitches. And then we're going to finish off the round by working 6 single crochet. So there we go. So that is the end of row 16, and you'll see here we have these 2 little chain loops and we have our base worked up. So from here on out, we're going to be working up the dome of the body, leaving these 2 openings open so that we can attach those pieces when we get there. So in row 17, what we're going to be doing is working around, but working over the top of these chains. So we're going to start by working 9 single crochet, and then 27 single crochet into the chains around our first opening. Then 44 single crochet around the back of the piece. Then 27 single crochet again into the chains of our second opening. And then 6 single crochet to finish off the round. So there we are at the end of row 17. So the next thing we're going to do is going to feel a little bit strange. It's a little more freeform than my patterns normally go. And what that is we're going to be working backwards and forwards in this little gap, slip stitching to each of the chains, and then turning around and working back to fill up this little sort of section of the front of the dragon. So I'll walk you through the first row just so that we can all get the hang of it together. So I'm going to start by working 7 single crochet. Like so, and you'll see that that brings us up to this first little corner where the chain starts. So we're going to work a single crochet 3 together. So just like that. And then I'm going to slip stitch into the next stitch up the chain and turn the whole piece so that I'm working back into those stitches that I just did. So this time we're going to work 12 single crochet along. Which again brings us back to a corner, and we're going to work 3 single crochet together like so. Slip stitch into the next stitch up those chains and turn the whole piece back again. So there's the first 2 rows. We'll see how they are working to fill up this straight piece between the 2 chains, and we're going to work 13 more of those to the top of the rows. So that's 12 of the rows, and then for the 13th one we are going to just do our 12 single crochet across, remove the strand of our hair, and then we're going to work a 13th single crochet to finish the row. So that brings us to the end of sort of row 32. There's a lot of these short rows in there, and your piece should be looking kind of like a diaper cover. If we're honest, that means that we're doing it right. You'll note that your oval is curling up at the base a little bit so that your underbelly is kind of showing up through, and that's fine, that's what you're expecting. And now we're gonna go back to working the whole way around again to finish working up, as I said, the dome of the back now that we've built up this front piece. So we're gonna start by working 14 single crochet across the chain bridge. Then 44 single crochet around the back. $13 single crochet across the second chain bridge, and then 13 single crochet back across the front. So you'll see there that our total round should have 84 single crochet in it. And then for the next 16 rows, we're just going to be closing off that dome. Just like so. Okay, so now we have our body chunk. What we're going to do is build up the tail next. Okay, so because we've used two different colors, you can see really easily the difference between our belly and our body. So that's what I'm going to call those two pieces. And we're going to attach our yarn in the first opening presented on the body, so right here, with either a standing single crochet or by slip stitching, chaining one, and then single crocheting into that same space. And then we're going to work single crochet around this whole edge. So what you want to do to start with is work 29 single crochet around to the other side where it attaches to our pale belly plate. So, okay, so there we are. We have crocheted around the top edge using our body color, and we have done 30 stitches in total. So now all we have to do is to work the 14 stitches along our base here. So I'm just pausing here for a second to let you know that if you want a pale underside to your tail, you could swap colors at this point and start working that up along the underside. I'm not going to do that. I want my tail all the same color as my body. So being careful not to work into this stitch here, which you can see we've already worked into on a previous row, but starting in the first set of 2 loops that haven't been worked into, we're going to work 14 single crochet along the base. Just like that. So what we have here is a new round of 44 single crochet around. So now we're just going to work 4 rows to extend it out from the body a little bit before we start curving it back around. Just like that. So what you can see there is that now our tail extends out from the body a little bit, and we're about to start curving it. So to do that, we're going to use some short rows. So to start with, straight away, we are just going to chain one and turn, and we're going to work 30 single crochet back along. Just like so. At the end of that row, we're going to chain one and turn, and you're going to want to make sure that your start and finish of those short rows is leaving a gap that is where we did those rows backwards and forwards between the chains to start with, because we want our tail to curve forwards. So at this point, what we're going to do is work 9 rows backwards and forwards along this half moon curve to close off this part of the tail so that we can then extend it out in a different direction. So there is the final short row, that single crochet 3 together. And now we're going to be working around the opening to create the new round that we'll be working through from now on. So without turning, we're going to start by working 9 single crochet down the edges of those rows. Then 10 single crochet along the base. 10 single crochet up the other side of row edges. Finishing with 1 single crochet in that single crochet 3 together that we did as the last short row. So there is our new round of 30 stitches that we're going to be working into. So now we're just going to use these same techniques of short rows and then working in the round to complete the last 36 rows of this tail. And you should see there that it finishes in a point. Just like that. So now we're just going to stuff this piece, making sure we get stuffing all the way down to the tip of the tail. So now we're going to use basically the same techniques to form the neck. Now the neck is left with an open end that we will be attaching the head to later. But for now, grab your body color again, and we'll be attaching in basically the same place as last time. Where the two colors meet, we're going to attach on the body side of it, and we're going to work the whole way around. Now you'll note that I'm working up the neck all in the body color. That's because I realized I was going to be attaching chest pieces over the top. And so there was no point doing all the extra work of changing colors backwards and forwards. It's not going to be visible anyway. So try and keep in mind what you want your dragon to look like as you're making these pieces, and you might be able to save yourself a lot of work. So with that all done and the neck stuffed up to its opening, we are just going to finish off. So we're finishing off with 20 stitches around, and we're going to actually make the head as a separate piece for a number of reasons. But we make the head so that it also finishes with a 20 stitch around opening in its neck so that they fit together seamlessly, and we can just sew them together and you won't even be able to tell that there is a join there. So with that, we're going to pop our body to one side. Okay, so with the body piece all done, we're actually going to do the head. Now, I think I mentioned before that we do the head as a completely separate piece, which makes it a lot easier to work with if you're attaching a lot of pieces to it, but it also gives you a lot of flexibility with which way it's going to face. So just because we're not doing 1,000 scales today, what I thought I would do is do a head piece like we did for Chonk. So we're going to use our belly color to create the base piece, and then we'll come up with a mask piece that fits over the top so that you have a nice finished dragon as well, if you don't want to go ahead and make all the scales. So that's what we're going to do now. So grabbing the color that you used for your belly, we are going to work up the head. So with all of that done, we're just going to finish forming this part of the neck. Because we want the head to sit on a little bit of an angle, we're going to give it a little bit of support, and then we're just going to let the weight of the face do the rest of the work for us. So we're going to work 4 single crochet, like so, and then going to slip stitch into the next one, then chain 1 and turn. Now we're going to skip the slip stitch and work into that last single crochet that we did, and work 10 single crochet back along the piece. Just like so, and then slip stitch into the next one, and we're going to finish off. So there is the head, and I'm just going to stuff mine really quickly. You'll note that we've stuffed all the way up to the opening in the neck, but we might be putting a little bit more in there later as we sew it together. It's just to hold the shape for now. So now we've got our body made and we have our head made. You'll see what I was talking about when it comes to the opening. So both of them are 20 stitches around, and you'll see that we built this little part of the neck onto the head so that you can basically make your dragon face whichever way you like. Whereas if we'd built that curve into the neck, you would have been locked into a single position. And yes, your dragon will sort of slope forward a little bit. Once we create the front legs, he'll be propped up into more of a position like this. And so I'll be probably attaching mine in a different pose to the one I did on Marigold. So for Marigold, I had her looking sort of back and down with her baby sitting here. Hold on one second. Yeah. Baby sitting in the curve of the tail so that they could have just this cute little like Mother's Day kind of moment. But for this one here, just because I'd like them to be a little bit different, I might just be having her sort of facing up and away to get just a little bit of a different flavour there. But for now, we're going to pop both of those pieces off to one side and we are going to start work on the legs. So next up, we're going to be looking at her claws. So the fingers and toes on this pattern are all made individually and then we join them into either a hand or a foot. So I'm going to show you how to make those claws and then we'll stop and make 14 of them. So grab the color that you're going to be using for your toenails. It's your accent color. I'm using a dark purple for that. And we're going to start with a magic ring of 3 single crochet. Now these do get a little bit fiddly and I am sorry about that. So working in a spiral, the next row you're going to do 2 single crochet and then an increase. Which leaves you with 4 stitches around. In the next row, you're going to do 3 single crochet and then an increase. Which leaves you with 5 single crochet around. Then the next row is going to be 4 single crochet and an increase. 4 single crochet and an increase. Which leaves you with 6 single crochet around. And can you guess what we're going to do next? Well, you're wrong. We're going to do 6 single crochet around and then finish off. So there is the little toenail. And now you're going to grab your body color. Just don't fall. Please don't make a mess. So with our body color, we are then going to reattach to our toenail. And we're going to do a round of 6 front post single crochet. So you can join on by slip stitching through both loops. And then I'm just going to proceed to do my 6 front post single crochet around. So front post is of course when you work around the post of the stitch by inserting your hook from the front of the piece, around the post and then back to the front. And you'll see that it looks like it doesn't go the whole way around, but it does because there are we finished with 6 stitches in our round and we've done 6 front post around the outside. It's just a little bit of an optical illusion. So the next stitch we work into will be that first front post single crochet that we did, not the slip stitch, and we will pull that all the way across and there won't be that little gap there. So for the next row, we're going to work in the front loops only. So that just means the loop on the outside of the piece. And notice, as I said, we're stretching that stitch the whole way across. And we're going to work a single crochet, an increase, 3 single crochet, and another increase, all in the front loops only, like so. Now, note that I'm encouraging mine to fold up along the claw and not sort of down this way. That front post will be encouraging this anyway, but you should definitely be folding it up towards yourself. So there should be 8 stitches in your round now, and we're going to work 8 single crochet around through both loops. Just like that. So that forms the cuticle of your nail. So we want it, as I mentioned, folded down over the claw, not folded back. If yours is like this, fold it forward and it'll want to stop at a certain point and sit a certain way, and that's good. That's how you want it. So then we're going to work a couple of rows just to give it a little bit more length, and to do that I'm going to chain 1, but you might want to chain 2. I want you to like judge that for yourself, because what I'm doing is I'm chaining 1 to get back to those back loops that we left before. So I've chained 1, and then we're going to work 6 single crochet around, working in those back loops that we left free before. And then do one last round of 6 single crochet. and finish off. So you want to tuck all of these ends down inside. Other than that, no stuffing will really be required for these little pieces. So there is that chain one that we did to move from our cuticle back down to our finger, and that will fall on the underside of the claw no matter how you attach it. So now you've made one of those, you actually need to make 3 for each of the back feet, then 3 for each of the front claws, and then a 4th for each of the front claws to act as like the thumb joint. So you'll actually need 14 of those in total, and I'm sorry about that. I know they're very fiddly, but you're going to need 14 in total. They're worth it though, look how good they look. So now you've made all of the toes, we need to form them into hands and feet. And to do that, you're going to need the pale color you've been using for your belly, as well as your main body color. Now, these pieces are made basically using the same pattern, but there is a slight variation for a hand versus a foot. So we are going to start in our belly color, and just because I'm afraid that this video isn't being very visually interesting, I'm just going to scatter some pretty strands of string around to give you guys something to look at while I work. There we go. So we're going to work 3 rows to get up to 18 stitches around. So just like that. Now in the next row, we're going to be attaching 3 of the toes. So pick out 3 of your toes. Now, as I mentioned when we were making them, you're going to want to keep in mind that this little chain bar is the underside of your toe. So we're going to join them really easily in the round by just single crocheting through the stitches of the toes and through the stitches of what's going to form the palm of the hand. So I'm going to line my toe up so that that little bar is against the right side of my hand. And I'm going to insert my hook through both loops of one of the stitches of the toe. Now for all of mine, I'm going to be starting in the stitch that comes directly after where we finished off. So there's our finishing off stitch, and this is the stitch I'm going to be starting in. So I've inserted my hook through both loops of that, and then also through both loops of the next stitch on the palm of the hand, and I'm going to work a single crochet. So that's our first stitch, and we're going to do the same thing through the next 2 stitches of the toe. So picking up the next stitch and the next one on the palm, working a single crochet, and then a 3rd stitch as well. There we go. So that toe is now attached to the palm of the hand. Now you'll note that we've only worked through 3 of the stitches of the toe, and that's because in the next row we'll be working through the next 3, but we'll deal with that in a minute. So you're going to repeat that process with the other 2 toes, working through 3 stitches on each of them. Like so. So now we've got 3 toes attached, and we've worked 9 stitches in this round. So we're then just going to complete the round by working 3 repeats of 2 single crochet and an increase. And in the last stitch of the round, we're going to change to our body color. Just like so. We are finished with the pale color for now, so you can trim that off and tie your ends together as well. So in the next row, we're going to pick up the tops of each of the toes. So basically what I'm going to do is insert my hook through both loops of the next available stitch on the toe, as well as through both loops of the next stitch on the palm of the hand, and we're going to work a single crochet through both of those. And I'm going to do the same thing the whole way along, so it should be 3 for each toe. And this should just make sure that everything is fastened down really securely. And then you can adjust the angle on each of your toenails so that they point downwards. And then we are once again going to finish the row by working 3 repeats of an increase and then 3 single crochet. Just like that. And then we're going to work 1 row to start closing in the top of the limb. There we go. So the hand and the foot are exactly the same up to this point, but in the next row there is a difference. So on the hand, we want to have this little opening that we can slide our arm into, like it's a little glove. And on the foot, we want it closed off as just one solid piece. So on the screen right now are the last 2 rows you need to do for the feet. Good. So with that done, we're going to finish this one off the way you're going to do the hands, with that little opening at the back. So we start our row by working 3 decreases and then 3 single crochet, like so. And we're then going to chain 3. That's our little chain of 3, and then skip the next 6 stitches. 5, 6. So this is where our next stitch will go. And we'll finish the round with 3 single crochet. The next row starts with 3 decreases. And then 3 single crochet over the chain. So note that I said over the chain, not into each of the chains. It's because we don't need to work into the other side of the stitches, so we can be lazy with it and just literally work our stitches around the chain instead. So that should leave you with 8 stitches in your round. So we're going to just work 2 decreases to get down to 6. And then finish off. Use the tail and just weave it through the front loops of each of the remaining 6 stitches, and we'll pull tight to close. And there is your hand. So you are going to need 2 hands, so 2 with the little opening at the back. 2 feet, I've only made 1 of mine so far, and that will leave you with 2 spare toes, and that is because we actually sew those toes on to the arm piece once we've made it to give like a dew claw or thumb kind of appearance. So that goes further back in the piece, which is why these haven't been attached up until now, but we do still need them. Chuck that in there for safekeeping. Chuck that in there for safekeeping. And I'm just gonna really quickly whip up a second foot. Just like that. Okay, so there we have our 2 hands with the spare claw just shoved in the opening for now, and our 2 feet, and we're gonna pop all of those to one side. Okay, so we have just finished making the feet. We haven't made the legs or the arms themselves, but we've made the feet, and you'll be starting to get like a real feel for how she's going to look when she's all assembled. It's there, and then some goes like here-ish, and it goes back there, and that goes up on top. Yeah, so now it's time to make like the joining pieces. Okay, so you can see here that I've popped my eyes in through row 11 of the head, but they are not clipped on yet, and that is because I won't clip them on until after we've created our face piece, which we are going to do now. So I'm going to be making mine in the same purple I've done the rest of the body in. So to start, we're just going to work the first 2 rows to create the end of the beak. Just like so. So that will leave you with this little piece that is 12 stitches around, and that is going to fit over the end of the nose like so. I suggest keeping this piece handy because you're going to want to hold up your mask against it. Just make sure that everything is fitting exactly where you expect it to go. Right, so from here we're going to be working in short rows only to build up kind of this rounded cone shape that's going to curve and fit nicely over the shape of the head. So we're going to start by working a single crochet, then an increase, 4 single crochet, another increase, and then a single crochet. So you'll note that that means that we've left 4 of the original stitches of that round unworked, and instead we're going to chain 1 and turn. So in the next row we're going to work up a couple of nostrils, but the row starts with just 2 single crochet, and then you're going to identify your back loop, which is the loop furthest away from you, and we're going to work 3 single crochet into that loop. Now, if you're somebody who likes to use stitch markers to identify their stitches, you might want to put one into the back loop of that stitch so that you can find it in the next round. I'm then going to work 4 single crochet, once again, I'm going to identify my back loop of the next stitch and work 3 single crochet into it. And You'll be pleased to know that this used to be 3 back post single crochet around the same post, but I changed it up because I thought that might be a little too sadistic. Then you can just also mark that front loop as well. We'll be needing it next row. Then to finish the row, we're just going to work 2 single crochet like so, and then chain 1 and turn. So that is what your piece should currently look like. All right, so round 5 kicks off with an increase in the first stitch, then a single crochet, and the next 3 stitches are the nostrils. So instead of working into those, we're going to fold that forward and work into what is now currently the back loop, but was the front loop last round, if that makes sense. We're going to work a single crochet in there instead, just like that. And making sure that we're skipping the 3 stitches that form the nostril, we're going to work 4 single crochet across. And once again, we're not going to work into the 3 stitches that form that nostril. Instead, we're going to fold it forward and work into the back loop that we didn't work into last round. So just 1 single crochet. And then we should have 2 stitches left, and we're going to do a single crochet in one of them and an increase in the other. And then chain 1 and turn. So at this point, you can try it on for size. For fit, you're going to want to make sure that your starting magic ring of your face piece lines up with the underlying head. So those 2 magic rings go directly on top of each other, and you should be able to start to see how the sides of the mouth are sloping slightly down and the nostril should sit up on top. So that is what your piece should currently look like. So we're now just going to work the next 5 rows to build up the muzzle of this piece. So there we go. So you'll see here we've got this nice ridged detail happening on top, and our sides are sloping down, and our nostril should still be relatively centered. As we work up this mask, you'll probably note that it is sloping slightly off to one side, but when we pin it onto the head form underneath, it all straightens out pretty nicely. So don't worry too much if yours is also on a little bit of a zig. So in the next row, we're going to start creating the eye sockets that will allow our eyes to poke through. We're going to start by working 3 single crochet. Like so, and then going to chain 10. Just like so. I'm going to skip the next 3, so 1, 2, 3, and insert my hook into the next one, and then work 6 single crochet along. Then we are once again going to chain 10 and skip 3. And work 3 single crochet to finish the row. So you'll see there, we've got these 2 goofy looking eye loops, and we're going to convert them into fancy eyebrows in the next couple of rounds. We are going to work 3 single crochet to reach our chains again, like so. And then over these chains, we're going to work 10 single crochet. And the reason I say over and not into is because it gives you a nicer finish to the inside of the piece, and we don't need to work into the other side of the chains. So this is a preference of mine for this particular piece. Like so. Working over the chain gives us this nice texture on the inside. And you'll note that I've bunched up my stitches so that we have 2 of those chains free on the inside before we move into these next stitches, and that is because we'll be working double crochets along this inner nose piece. So your 10 single crochet should fall along the outer edge of this. Now, if you've worked them evenly spaced because you're a disciplined crocheter who doesn't do things as chaotically as I do and they're looking a little bit more like this, all you have to do is grab your chain, grab your stitches and slide them backwards. And that will give you those 2 chains that you want to be able to see. So we should have 6 stitches in total to work into across the middle. And we're going to do a double crochet into the first one. Now, a double crochet using US terms means we're going to yarn over our hook, insert through the 2 loops, yarn over and pull up a loop. So we've got 3 loops on our hook, yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops on our hook, and then yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops on our hook. And there is your finished double crochet. So that's the first one we're going to do. And then we have 5 more, and the middle 4 we're going to work as front post double crochet. Now, I have abbreviated that as FPDC on the screen there. And what that means is we're going to work around the post of the stitch, but we're going to work it as a double crochet, not a single crochet. So you'll see I've inserted my hook around the post, And then I'm just working my double crochet as per usual. Like so. So that's 4. And then in that last stitch on the row, we're going to work a normal double crochet through the loops like we normally would. So there is our 6 stitches in the middle. We are then going to, starting 2 chains up on the other eye socket, work 10 single crochet over the chains around to the other edge. Like so. And then work 3 single crochet to finish the row. Chain 1 and turn. So you can see the wonk developing a little bit better there. You can stop and try on at this point if you would like. So lining up the 2 magic rings, centering this down the middle of the head, and then the eyes should fall into those 2 rims. So kind of like that. I forgot that there was a camera above me for a second there. I was showing the window. So in the next round, we're going to be building up slightly more of an eyebrow again. So start with an increase, then 2 single crochet, and then we're going to work 10 back post single crochet around that eyebrow. Like so. So that gives us this nice pronounced eyebrow ridge. We're then going to work 6 single crochet along those middle stitches and repeat the eyebrow on the other side as well. And then chain 1 and turn. So that's the main face of the piece, and then what we're going to be doing is working up some petal textures along the back for just a couple of rows. So when I was creating this piece, I did keep Marigold in mind as the inspiration, which is why you'll see that this dragon has a little bit more of a petal motif coming through than perhaps Chonk does. And finish off. So there is our face piece, and I'm just going to fit it on over the top of our head. Now, this is one recommendation because while we're not going full on decoration with this particular pattern, it felt wrong to leave you guys with just like a naked lump for a head. So I just thought we would try that. So I've just lined up our magic rings again, stretched my 2 sides down so that they're sitting relatively evenly. And you will need to stretch this piece a little bit. That's kind of the point. I'm just going to pull the back edge of it to where we changed colors. And these negative space openings actually make that really easy. They give the piece a lot of give, so you shouldn't have to force it too much. I won't be showing assembly for today's pattern just because a lot of these pieces I recommend adding any scales or ridges or that sort of thing before you assemble. And for this piece here, you could have a lot of fun stuffing some feathers in behind this particular ridge before you sew it on. I actually think that would be really cool. But one thing I will say is that when you sew it on, be wary of where your eye ridges are sitting. So these ones here, my eyes are kind of like on the outer edges of them, which I like, but I would definitely take time to like position the eyebrows very carefully so that they were sitting how I wanted them to. The eyes are something that you look at straight away and you focus on a lot. So you'll really want to just take the time to make sure that yours are showing the way you want them to show. So there is the little face piece. You could also wedge some teeth in under there and do all sorts of things with it. Okay, so next up I'm going to show you how to make the arm piece that is comprised of this shoulder down into this elbow, and then we have this little wrist opening that fits inside the hand opening. And honestly, we could have continued working around this opening and built the arm up from this end, but it's just so much easier to have them as 2 pieces that just fit inside one another. I don't understand why you would want to, and this is me saying this, overcomplicate it. So I'm going to move those to one side, and this is the piece that we'll be making now. So obviously I've already made one. And how this piece works is we actually start in the middle front and we work up this kind of disc shape down the other side as well. So we end up with a flat disc with a little opening in one side. And at that point, we work around and around and build out the lower arm part of it. So we're going to do that now. Now, the first part of this is pretty self-explanatory, so you should go ahead and work up the shoulder. So once you reach this point, we're going to create that little chain gap for the leg. So we start by crocheting 28 single crochet around. So then we're going to chain 4 and skip 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And work 8 single crochet to finish the round. So that is where we'll be inserting our arm. Now in the next row, we're going to work around until we reach the chains again, and then put 4 single crochet into the chains, basically leaving the back loops of the chain free for us to attach our arm in a minute. And then carry on and finish off the row. And then we're basically just going to continue on and close off the back side of the shoulder. And then finish off and weave your tail around the remaining stitches to close that little opening. Now, how much you stuff this piece is up to you. It depends on how sort of protrudy you want those shoulders to be. I like to put just a little bit of stuffing in mine, just to help it hold its shape. And you can always add more after we've added the forearm because it is going to be hollow the whole way through. So yeah, that is the shoulder joint. So you may notice that you have sort of one corner that sticks out slightly more than the other. That's the front of the piece. But if you're looking directly down at the opening, you should have your chain loops on your left-hand side and your single crochets on the right-hand side. And we're going to attach our yarn in the first of the chain loops. And again, you can do this either doing a standing single crochet, which is my preference, or by slip stitching, chaining 1 and then single crocheting into the same stitch. And we're going to start by working a single crochet into the next stitch and then an increase into each of the last 2 remaining chains. And what we're doing at the moment is working up the elbow, like so. Then turning, and now we're going to work on the single crochet side of it. So you're going to put an increase in the first 3. And then a single crochet into the remaining 3. Which should bring the entire row up to 15 single crochet. And because we're working up the elbow at the moment, we are going to chain 1 and turn and just work 2 more rows of 15 single crochet backwards and forwards. Like so. From there, we're going to work 4 rows to close off the bottom part of that opening. Then work 12 single crochet around the ends. Finishing that row with a single crochet into the single crochet 3 together that we did as our last short row, leaving you with 13 stitches around in total. From there, we're just going to build up the forearm over the next 8 rows before finishing off. And you'll note that we've left one end open. I'm going to stuff the elbow and the arm quite firmly, even though I didn't stuff the top shoulder part of this very much at all. Squidge things around until we're happy. And then this open end will tuck inside the open end of the hand. So here I've got one of the hands we made here, and that's the thumb. And I'm just going to tuck the open end of one inside the other. Are those yarns different colors, or am I crazy? It doesn't matter. Pin that in place. So I don't know if I've said this already, but we won't be doing assembly in this video just because this is clearly a creature that needs some decoration, and it's so much easier to add that decoration before you sew things together. But that is how you would assemble the arm. For me, what I did is I sewed the claw into the arm and then I added scales to both pieces, leaving room to attach the thumb. And the thumb goes on the forearm on either the right hand side for the left hand for the left-hand side for the right hand, if that's not too confusing. So there is our first one, just like that. And then I have another one here. So looking a little scraggly, but getting the job done. So those are our arms. So if we pin some of these pieces in place now, I'm gonna change my camera angle so you can actually see.
Okay, so we've had to swap to side view again because again, it does not fit on the top-down view. But just to walk you through roughly how you would go about assembling this, I would start with the arms. So having already attached any scales you were going to attach and sewing the hand onto the arm and the thumb on already. So this should be one full assembled piece. I would lift up the front of it and pin this in place over that sort of shouldery joint so that the hand sits flat, like so. Then grab your other one and on the other side, making sure the thumbs face inwards, lift it up. Again, you want the hand flat. You can even have them crossed over slightly if you like. Just pin in place. So there we go. So that's what I was saying before about not being too worried if it's sloped forward, because we could prop it up using those arms. The angle of the head is a matter of personal choice. So there we go. So because we've got this curve of the neck attached to the head itself, you can have it looking in any direction you like, including back and down at its tail, which is how I have Marigold posed so that she's looking at her baby. For this one here today, I'm going to pose mine looking forward. So I've just chucked a couple of pins in there. Now when you go to sew these two pieces together, I thoroughly recommend decorating the head fully first, but when you go to sew these two pieces together, keep in mind that we've got the same number of stitches around the opening of the neck as we do around the opening at the back of the head. So you would just stitch through each paired up stitch and you'd get a just completely seamless look, regardless of whether or not you're going to cover it in scales or not. There we go, so there is that. And then we have our back feet. Now these feet can literally just be sewn onto the base where you want your feet to sit. One would go in the curve of the tail, and the other one will go right where our original belly plate turns into just full tail. So they will be sitting diagonally across the back. Hold on one second. Yeah. So the feet will sit one here and one here, so not centered down the back, but like at an angle on either side of where we had that opening that we attached the tail into. So that is basically what your dragon will end up looking like, but naked. You could also create things like a haunch pattern will be on the screen here. But basically all that is just a round piece that you can sew on to add the illusion of like the rest of the leg if you need that. Like if I was leaving my dragon just like this and I wasn't adding any scales or anything to her, I would make these just because it joins the back leg a little bit better onto the body. So I would literally just put one there and then one on the other side at the back. So but it's just a plain disc. So just to finish off today's video, what I thought I might do is show you how I would make one of the chest plates that I did for Marigold and how I made those strands of scales for Marigold as well. Because then I feel like you guys have all of the tools you need to, you know, carry on and go all out with this particular project. So popping Dinosaurus to one side. I'm going to swap back to the top down view now. Okay, bye.
So I'll start with the strands of scales. So I'm just going to make mine in my belly color because I might chuck a couple behind the head. So on Marigold, I made scales in two main sizes. So both are the same basic pattern. So I start off with a magic ring of 6, just like that. And that is actually the first scale size. So for these ones here, I used a couple of them on the face, but they mainly were used for the hands. But for today, I'm going to continue on and make the size that I used far more of. And that is the next size up. And all I did was I put an increase into each of the stitches around to bring us up to a little disc of 12 single crochet. And at this point you're thinking, why am I bothering showing you the pattern for this? And that is just purely because I organized my scales into strands and I saw a lot of comments about it on my Marigold video and on a couple of the posts that I did. So I just thought I'd show you how I kept my scales organized by size and color right up until I had to sew them on. Now for some of these, I used a different color for the magic ring in the middle so that I had like a two-tone scale, but a lot of them were just yellow discs, just like this. But to make it a strand of scales instead of cutting this off and pulling it through the active loop, I'm going to pull the scale itself through the loop and finish off. And now I can hold that as the tail as I start making the next one. So I'm just making another one the exact same size, just up the strand there. It saves a little bit of yarn in between them as well, which I appreciated at the scale, no pun intended, that I was working at. And this also became something that I could really comfortably carry around with me as well, because like if I was making loose scales individually, I'd be worried about losing one of them or the pieces going everywhere, but instead I could just grab my ball of yarn and sit on a friend's couch and just create strings of them that all stayed nicely together, and it didn't matter if I forgot my scissors. Because I mean, who hasn't taken a project on the go and realized they've forgotten some vitally important element of it? For me, it's usually stuffing, but occasionally it's scissors. One horribly tragic moment, it was my hook. Some mistakes are harder to come back from than others, but there we go. So there is another scale, and then like this time here, you just pull the loop really big and pull both of those scales through. So I would create them in strands of, I think I was doing strands of 10. So while I was working out where everything went, I could literally just pin them in place, still attached to the strand. So like, I'll put one there, and then I could like pose one there, and just pull them all off, put that one next to it like that. And when it came time to sew them on, I literally just snipped in between each of them, tucked all the ends away inside, and you'd never even know that they were attached this way. So that is kind of the first element that I wanted to show you guys. And the other element I wanted to show was the little chest plates. So they were pretty basic as well. I'll just show you how I did the 3-petaled ones, and then the 4-petaled ones are basically the same thing, just with a longer starting chain. So start by chaining 13. Just like so. Starting in your second chain from hook, you're going to work 12 single crochet back along. So, chain 1 and turn, and we're going to work 12 single crochet back along. And we're just going to chain 1 and turn. And then we're going to work some shell stitches along to add some little petals. So the way we do that is I'm just going to skip the first single crochet and put 5 double crochet into the next. I'm going to skip the next single crochet and then slip stitch into the one after that. And I'm going to repeat that 2 more times along. So to make a 4-petaled one, you just start with the chain 17, do 2 rows of single crochet, and then repeat the shell stitch across. So there is how I made the neck pieces, and let's see if I can tilt her without her falling apart on me here. And then I just lined them up so that they were overlapping each other a little bit, all the way down the front to make a nice little ruffled edge. This one here I'll probably repurpose as a headpiece, hold on. And honestly, a faster way to scale her up would be just to make strands of these in the lengths that you need them to be. So there is your basic dragon base. So between you, me, and the internet, I have been drawing other dragons in different poses, all at this size, and I haven't worked on them yet, but you might be seeing from these ladies at some point. So I've realized I didn't really record an outro for this, and I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I hope this video was okay. You guys seemed really interested in seeing the dragon base and how I made it, and I was really keen to see what you guys could do with it. Even though like I couldn't sit in front of a camera, it just wasn't feasible to sit there and record scale by scale exactly how I made this little lady up here. So I hope this has inspired you. I hope that you can take this base and do something really cool with it. If you end up posting your finished dragon anywhere, don't forget to tag me in it because I really want to see them. But other than that, I will see you next week. Okay, bye.